in the heart of the savanna, where the sun kisses the earth and life pulses in every blade of grass. A story unfolds a tale not just of kings and kingdoms, but of shadows and the courage it takes to face them. This is the story of the Black Mane War, and Simba's rise from a troubled past to a legendary future. We all know the classic tale. A young prince, wrongfully exiled, returns to reclaim his throne from a tyrannical uncle. But what happens after the happily ever after? What challenges does a new king face when the kingdom he inherits is broken, scarred by years of neglect and fear? This is where our story begins. Simba's reign started with hope. The rains returned, the herds came back, and the Pride Lands began to heal. But the scars of Scar's rule ran deeper than the parched earth. A lingering distrust, a shadow of fear, still clung to the hearts of many. The hyenas were gone, but their memory and the chaos they represented remained. It was in this fragile peace that a new threat began to stir, a threat born from the very shadows Scar had cultivated. Deep in the outlands, a faction of lions, loyalists to Scar's dark ideology, had been biding their time. They were the forgotten, the outcasts who believed Scar's vision of power and dominance was the true path. They called themselves the Black Manes. Their leader was a formidable lion named Kavu. He was not just a brute. He was cunning, charismatic, and fueled by a bitter resentment. He saw Simba not as a savior, but as a usurper who had stolen their rightful destiny. Kavu preached that strength was the only law, and that the circle of life was a chain to be broken, not a balance to be maintained. He promised his followers a return to glory, a kingdom where the strong would rule without question. The first signs of trouble were subtle: scarcity in neighboring lands, skirmishes at the borders, and whispers of a powerful new pride uniting the outcasts. Zazu, ever vigilant, brought troubling reports to Simba. He spoke of a lion with a mane as dark as a moonless night, a lion who commanded a growing army with promises of power. Simba, at first, was hesitant. He was a king of peace, dedicated to rebuilding, not to war. He had seen enough conflict to last a lifetime. He tried diplomacy, sending messengers of peace, offering a place within the circle of life to anyone who would respect its laws. But Kavu saw this as weakness. He responded not with words, but with a brazen attack on a watering hole near the border, driving off the herds and claiming the territory for his own. The act was a declaration of war. The Pride Lands were in shock. The peace they had so carefully nurtured was shattered. Simba knew he could no longer stand by. He had to protect his people, his family, and the very philosophy his father had died for. But the weight of this decision was immense. The ghosts of his own past, his flight from responsibility, his duel with Scarlet, all came rushing back. Could he lead his pride into war? Was he truly ready to be the king his father was? Nala, always his rock, stood by his side. She reminded him that true strength wasn't the absence of fear, but the courage to act in spite of it. "You are not Scar, Simba," she told him, her voice firm. "You fight for life, not for power. You fight for the circle, not to break it. That is why you will win." Her words, and the sight of his young daughter Kiara playing, oblivious to the gathering storm, solidified his resolve. He would not let the shadows consume their future. Simba rallied the Pride Lands. It was a sight to behold. The lionesses, fierce and loyal, stood ready. Timon and Pumbaa, though terrified, sharpened their... Well, they stood ready in their own unique way. Even the herds, from the lumbering elephants to the swift gazelles, pledged their support. They understood that Kavu's tyranny threatened them all. This wasn't just a war between lions. It was a war for the soul of the savannah. The training began. Simba, drawing on the wisdom Mufasa had taught him, trained the young lions. He taught them not just how to fight, but why they fought. He taught them strategy, teamwork, and the importance of defending the weak. He was no longer just a king. He was a general, a leader forged in the crucible of responsibility. The conflict, when it came, was brutal. The Black Mane War was a series of strategic battles across the savannah. Kavu's forces were savage and disciplined, fighting with a coordinated ferocity the Pride Lands had never seen. They used fear as a weapon, striking at night and disappearing into the shadows. The first major clash was at the gorge, the very place where Simba's life had been forever changed. Kavu chose this location deliberately, a psychological blow aimed at the heart of the king. The battle was chaotic, a desperate struggle amidst the dust and shadows. The Pridelanders fought with courage, but the Black Manes were relentless. During the height of the battle, Simba found himself face to face with Kavu. The dark-maned lion was everything Scar was, and more. He was younger, stronger, and possessed a chilling clarity of purpose. "You fight for a fairy tale," Simba Kavu snarled, circling him. "A world where predator and prey live in harmony. It's a lie. The strong take, and the weak perish. That is the only truth." "The circle of life isn't a lie," Simba roared back, his voice echoing through the gorge. "It's a responsibility. It's what separates us from monsters." Their duel was epic, a clash of ideologies as much as claws. But this was not just Simba's fight. At a critical moment, when Simba was cornered, it was the combined effort of the Pride that turned the tide. Nala led a charge of lionesses, flanking the Black Manes, while Timon and Pumbaa created a massive diversion, leading a stampede of confused wildebeests towards Kovu's rearguard. It was chaos, but it was their chaos. The Battle of the Gorge was a victory, but a costly one. The Pridelands were battered, but their spirit was unbroken. They had faced the darkness and held the line. They proved that unity was a greater force than brute strength. The war was not over, but its turning point had been reached. Kavu's forces were scattered, their myth of invincibility shattered. But more importantly, Simba had been transformed. He had faced the ghost of Scar, not in a single duel, but in a prolonged war against his very ideology. He had stared into the abyss of what he could have become and chose, once again, the path of light. He was no longer the reluctant prince or the king haunted by his past. He was Simba, the war king, the guardian of the circle. He had proven that true leadership isn't about avoiding conflict, but about facing it with courage, wisdom, and an unwavering belief in the good of your people. The Black Mane War serves as a powerful reminder that peace must be defended, that unity is our greatest strength, and that even in the darkest of times, a true king fights not for a crown, but for the dawn that will follow. Thank you for joining us on this journey back to the Pride Lands. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the world's greatest myths and legends. See you next time.